past. Next to a man who has successfully combined his love of Formula One motor racing with the skills he acquired painting miniature models. The items are tiny, the work is intricate, but Paul Marshall's steady hand produces figures of real quality. Paul runs a small business producing these small figures, and I recently visited him in his Dublin home to see him at work. Paul Marshall has always been interested in miniature figures, how they handle, what they look like up close, how well they match their full-size counterparts. Typically, he can spend up to 3 days working on a figure no bigger than a matchbox. And of course, the delight is in the detail.
I suppose the detail is the thing that catches everybody's eye. Hand-built cars can cost anything between 500 and 2,000 sterling. And if you have a figure that's going to stand beside that, it has to look very highly detailed. I love to see something start out as a piece of resin or a piece of metal, undercoated in white, and then to actually breathe life into it with some colour. Hi there.
Hi. Paul and his wife Patricia have more space in their house since their 3 sons moved out, but it seems not enough for all Paul's paraphernalia.
It's all over the place, literally. Underbeds, overbeds, wardrobes. You open up a press or a wardrobe belonging to a child that's left home and it's, hello, what's this? When did this come in?
So you must be very proud of Paul.
I think it's amazing. I wouldn't have the patience for it. I look at it and admire it, and I think they're absolutely fantastic. The detail, you know, right down to the iris of the eye.
And Paul, when did your interest in miniature models start?
I think it goes back to my father bringing home, like all good fathers, bringing home a railway set for their son, but in fact I think it was really for himself. And that was in the late 50s. And I think he was mildly disappointed that I was a bit fixated about the men for the trains, because I was wanting to know why there weren't people in the trains. And I think that's where my interest about figures came from.
Paul's father also introduced him to motorsport. It was the beginning of a lifelong interest that saw him in turn bring his own family to Mondello Park and Silverstone. For many years a member of the Irish Model Soldiers Society, Paul has built up his skills painting miniature military figures.
Military figures is a huge market, and there are lots of people painting military figures, but I've actually taken the skills that I kind of honed on the military figures and I put them into Formula One. And bit of research recently, I can only find about 4 other guys who are doing what I'm doing on the web at the moment, to the same kind of level. And the people who are discovering it are saying, gosh, they're painted like military figures. So it started with military figures.
So this is your workshop. This is where it all happens, Paul.
Yeah, this is where I work away at nights, creating the detailed figures and pouring the midnight oil. Well, Patricia is wondering where I'm at, but I'm actually at home.
And what's your typical Formula One client?
Well, a typical Formula One client is usually somebody who has a collection of hand-built die casts.
And then you provide the driver to match the car?
Yeah, I'm fortunate to have a number of clients around the world who want to populate their grid, if you like, with Ayrton Senna's and Alain Prost's, but they want the detail, they want the livery, they want the logos, and they want the character, I suppose, as well. They actually favour a bare-headed driver, so you can actually make the character's face out, as opposed to one with a helmet on.
But people do order helmets, specifically?
Yeah, people do order helmets. The helmet of a modern driver now is quite a piece of work. Because it contains quite a number of functional parts in the real piece. Breather tubes, water drinking tubes, radio communications, and of course visors and all of that sort of stuff. So incorporating that into a miniature can sometimes take about 50 or 60 parts.
Oh my goodness, so that work is incredibly intricate, incredibly demanding on you and your eyesight. Luckily you have steady hands and clear eyes.
Yes, I'm very fortunate to still have all of those pieces working very well. Steady hand is very, very important.
Paul has been fascinated for many years by the Brazilian driver Ayrton Senna, who died tragically at Imola in 1994,
just 24 hours after Roland Ratzenberger of Austria lost his life at the same track.
One of the stories that came out afterwards about that terribly dark weekend for Formula One, it was a very dark weekend indeed, was that when they removed him from the car and ultimately had to cut his driving suit from him, they found he had been carrying a very small flag, an Austrian flag, which it's believed he was going to raise in tribute to Roland Ratzenberger, who unfortunately the previous day had lost his life in the practice for that race. So the idea was that he was going to win the race and raise the Austrian flag. So I've been thinking for a long time about how Senna might have approached those kind of final moments, how he might have planned that. So the piece is a three-dimensional one-off, and I have to say I've had a lot of great praise for it, and it's unique.
Also in Paul's repertoire are Napoleonic figures, fantasy models and movie stars. If you're interested, go to Paul's website. But be warned, he has enough work to keep him busy till June.
And our thanks to Paul and Patricia Marshall for making us feel so welcome in their home.